Houston Rockets Summer League Game 2, topping the Oklahoma City Thunder. Final score 90-88. Jabari Smith Jr. aggressive on both ends, offense and defense, in this game. Why it's okay that he didn't shoot incredibly well from the floor. Tari Eason, a terror in transition, and then TyTy Washington, flotation device activated in this game-winning bucket, floaters galore for him, great passing, great playmaking. All of this and more coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
The Houston Rockets select Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
Every time I step on that floor, I'm coming.
You're getting somebody who's going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, somebody who's going to come in and compete from day one.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays, host of the State of the Rockets podcast, as well as the founder of ClutchCityControlRoom.com. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin. The show, of course, at Locked On Rockets. Now, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline. It's where the game starts. As always, we appreciate you for making LOR your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Rockets, like, comment, subscribe. The comments help out a ton. Remember, for the house, for the team, for the algorithm. Rockets picking up the Summer League win against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Final score 90-88. A game that looked, this Rockets team looked completely different in this game compared to the first Summer League game against the Orlando Magic. And where that all started with was Jabari Smith Jr. aggressive on both ends of the floor, offense and defense. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about Tari Eason being a terror in transition. Tari Eason, if you will. Shout out to Roosh Williams, the Mastodon, for that nickname. TyTy Washington, flotation device activated, has that floater game down pat. It is so beautiful. A crucial bucket late in this game to give the Rockets the lead. We're going to talk about Daishen Nix and his bounce back performance. Also, Eric Holman vying for that Rockets two-way spot, that last two-way spot available. Let's start with Jabari Smith Jr., who had an impressive, I don't want to call it a bounce back game because I don't think he was necessarily bad in the first game, but in this game, a completely different version of Jabari Smith Jr., a very aggressive version of Jabari Smith Jr. on both ends of the floor. Finished the night, 12 points. I'll get to the shooting percentage in a second. 12 points, 9 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 steals, and 3 blocked shots. Completely imposing his will on the defensive side of the basketball in this game against Chet Holmgren and the Oklahoma City Thunder. In fact, had multiple opportunities where he started the game very early, ripped the ball out of Chet's hands. Chet got the ball, deep post position, and Jabari just ripped it from him and ignited the transition for the Houston Rockets. Got it, the outlet pass out to Josh Christopher, who then lobbed it up to the rim, and Tari Eason yammed it home, which I'm going to call it right now. Tari Eason, dunk contest 2023. It's happening. All-Star Game 2023, Tari Eason dunk contest. Book it right now. I'm calling this Summer League Game 2. So with that, Jabari Smith Jr. really imposing his will on the defensive side of the basketball. Offensively, he was actively looking for his shot in this game. It felt like he was a bit more reserved in game 1, not really looking to get, go after his shot, go for his spots, that kind of thing. But it really felt like both Jabari himself and the team as a whole did a better job of getting him the basketball, putting him in spots where he could be aggressive and look to take those shots. He finished just 5 of 19 from the floor. Not great. Not a great shooting percentage. It's like 26.3% or something. Just 2 of 9 from long distance. But I am not worried about the shooting numbers for Jabari because the quality of the shots that he was getting totally fine with them. Jabari is a good enough shooter, and we have more than enough sample size to pick from to know that those shots will eventually go down. Sometimes there's just a lid on the basket, and that sucks, right? And it would have been great if Jabari shoots even average in this game. He has 20 plus, and then he walks away with a stat line of 20 plus to go with 9 boards and assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks. That's an absurd stat line. Unfortunately, the shots didn't fall in this game, but that's still okay because he made his presence felt defensively. And I do think, like, throughout the game, it really felt like he was much more comfortable on the floor in this one, figuring out the spots that he could be successful in. He had a moment just before halftime in this game where he blocked Chet Holmgren and then got down to the other end of the floor, like ignited the transition for the Rockets, got down to the other end of the floor and kind of trailed into a 3-pointer. And that to me was like the sequence of the game. Well, I can't say that was the sequence of the game. Second favorite sequence of the game. To see Jabari getting it done on both ends right before the half. Probably my favorite sequence of the game was Jabari crashing on the floor at the end of the game, 12 seconds left. It is a one possession game, one point game, in fact, and Jabari crashes to the floor to secure the loose ball, call timeout. Those are game-winning plays, right? And to have your star player, right, crash on the floor to make those game-winning plays, it's really beautiful. It's impressive to see. In fact, I asked Coach Higgins after it about that moment, that sequence right after the game.
1-point game, Jabari dives on the floor, collects the loose ball, gets the timeout call. Just thoughts on that play, that sequence.
I almost said some things I shouldn't have said, but yes, right? Like, that's what you need at the end of the game. That's what you need from your best player, right? If they're going to do that late game, who's not going to do it? So if our best players and our highest profile players are willing to put their body on the line late game for their teammates, what can that make our group become?
Shout out to Coach Higgins, who I absolutely adore. You can tell he is so, he's hilarious. 2, you can tell he is so passionate about this team, about this game, about the success of these guys. And again, Jabari, encompasses that winning personality, right? And I do think that him, rolling into what the Rockets already have with the rest of their young guys, that mentality, being able to make those game-winning plays, it's going to be huge. But in addition, again, you got the block shots, you got the steals, the offensive repertoire that he showed on display in this one. He really was being so much more aggressive about pulling the trigger on his shots. He had one where he pump faked on the perimeter and took one quick dribble into a long 2, fired that, hit it. He had one where he drove the ball in a little bit, picked up his dribble right about the elbow, and didn't have an outlet for it, so he just turned and hit the quick turnaround fadeaway. And of all his shots in this game, again, just 5 of 19 shooting, not a great efficiency there, but I didn't have an issue with any single one of his shots. It felt like every single shot was good, and it also felt like he was missing them by just this much. In fact, there was a moment midway through the third quarter where one of the 2 teams called timeout, and as the Rockets were headed to their bench, Jabari held the ball, and the referee asked him, he was like, "Hey, can you give me the basketball?" And Jabari kind of told him, he motioned, he was like, "Nah, I want to shoot it really quick." And he put up a shot, before walking over to the huddle, and he missed that shot too. And he kind of hung his head for a split second, it's just one of those games, right? Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you have a game where you just cannot buy a bucket, but it didn't matter because he found other ways to impact this game, and the Rockets were able to come out with the win. That's the type of player that Jabari Smith is, and at the end of the day, the shot will fall because he is a transcendent shooter. This was just a bad shooting game. Everybody's got them. Even Klay Thompson has bad shooting games, right? It's okay. It happens. Hopefully we see him bounce back in the Rockets' next Summer League game Monday night. But coming up, I want to talk about Tari Eason, TyTy Washington, their impact in this game, as well as Daishen Nix bouncing back in a big way in this game, Josh Christopher's contributions, as well as Eric Holman maybe making a run for that final Rockets 2-way contract spot. We're going to get there in just a quick moment after a message from our friends over at BetOnline, because BetOnline.net is your number 1 source for all of your sports betting needs and info. Find the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including Major League Baseball, UFC, MMA, boxing, golf, you name it, they've got you covered over at BetOnline. Again, it's your best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, news, everything you could possibly need this season. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events. Everything you need over at BetOnline. Head over to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action available to you. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. And continuing on here at Locked on Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Let's talk a little Tari Eason as well as TyTy Washington. But I'm going to flip the script here. We'll talk about TyTy first because I talked about Tari first in the last podcast. TyTy Washington felt like his presence was so impactful throughout the course of this game. We saw a lot more overlapping minutes for TyTy Washington with the rest of the Rockets starters, and I thought that was really impactful in this one. His box score, his numbers to end the night: 9 points, 4 of 10 shooting, 3 rebounds, a couple of assists, had a steal, had one of, if not maybe the most important bucket of the game, possibly, in which he gave the Rockets the lead when they were down 86-85 and drove the ball in under 30 seconds. Daishen Nix dishes it off to him on the side. He catches, attacks right off the catch, drives it in. Flotation device activated. Second floater of the game that he hit, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Second floater of the game that he hit. Has that floater down. Like, he's got it on lock. And so that, in that moment, just seeing him, the poise that TyTy Washington had. But I do think that across this game, and this kind of loops into Daishen Nix and the success that he had in this game. I think having that secondary ball handler out there at times with Daishen really helped him have some success in this game. But I really love what we've seen out of TyTy Washington so far. He is a cerebral play. It feels like he's a cerebral player, that he plays smart basketball. It feels like the passes and the decisions that he makes on the floor are important just across the board. It feels like the shots that he sets up, the moves that he makes, the decisions that he makes are just very solid. Like, he can hoop. He's a solid player. And so far, like, I even remarked at one point during the game, I said that I think that TyTy Washington's playmaking ability and just his court vision and court awareness offensively might be my favorite part of Rockets Summer League so far. Seeing him create the way that he does, he's been the best playmaker on this Rockets Summer League team easily. I mean, again, this was a guy that had 17 assists at Kentucky, and so he knows how to facilitate the basketball. He knows how to get other guys involved. And what really stood out is after the game, right? We've had now Jabari versus Paolo. We've had Chet versus Jabari. And so I wanted to know from TyTy, I said, I asked him, how does he think Jabari is handling the pressure so far?
Last game, it was kind of, marketed as Paolo versus Jabari. Tonight, kind of Chet versus Jabari, all the top picks playing against each other. How do you think Jabari's kind of handled that pressure so far?
I feel like he's handled it well. I mean, one thing about Jabari, he's a team player, so he doesn't look at it as an individual matchup. Tonight he looked at it as Houston Rockets versus the Oklahoma Thunder. I mean, he never said, like, I got to do this against Chet, or I got to do this against Paolo. I mean, he goes out there with the same mindset as the rest of us, just wanting to win, really. So, I feel like he's handled it real well. He's not letting the pressure get to him or anything. He's not trying to make it about himself. He's still playing team ball, and at the end of the day, just trying to get us to win.
Love that answer from TyTy Washington, who basically was just, again, glowing praise for Jabari. And this is just, again, another feather in the cap of what Jabari Smith is, right, as a player. He is all about winning, right? He's got that winning mentality. We talked about him diving on the floor, right? Making winning basketball plays. It's not about him. It's about the team. And I do think that Jabari encompasses that mentality, that attitude, and that is going to serve him well throughout his career. So I love that answer from TyTy Washington, who, again, very, very impressive game. I can't wait to see what else we see out of him throughout Summer League. I'm really going to need the Rockets to start hitting on some of the really solid passes that he dishes out, and some of the really solid creations that are, playmaking ability. What word do I want here? I'm losing my sentence. Hang on. Reset that sentence really quick. I need the Rockets to start capitalizing on some of the beautiful dimes or would-be dimes that TyTy Washington is dishing out. That is a much better sentence overall. Let's go to Tari Eason now, who continues to make the absolute most of his Summer League opportunity here. Pardon me. Finished the game 14 points on 5 of 10 shooting, 1 of 3 from the three-point line, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Shot 3 of 4 at the free throw line. And he did miss a crucial free throw there at the very end of the game, in which, could have potentially cost the Rockets the game. missed the free throw. The Thunder down 2. Josh Giddey gets the inbounds and goes the full length of the court. Very solid contest by Jabari Smith Jr. there on Josh Giddey at the end of the game to make sure that he didn't have a clear lane to the basket. But Tari Eason even went on Twitter right after the game, and he said, "I don't even go to socials after the game, but that free throw going to haunt me." And he was mad at himself, right? And I like everything that we know about Tari Eason so far about this young man is that he is going to take that moment, that frustration, and he's going to go like knock down 1,000 free throws in the nearest gym. Maybe not right after the game, right? But that's just the type of player he is. That's the type of winning mentality that he has, wanting to put in that hard work. And I'm sure that he's going to take that moment and realize, man, that missed free throw could have cost us that game, and he's going to go work on that and refine that free throw shooting. But throughout this game, Tari Eason continued what he started in that first game against the Orlando Magic. Very aggressive on offense, looking for opportunities to drive the ball in, looking for opportunities to score in transition. And that is where he is going to be. He's at his absolute best in transition. And thinking about this Rockets team with Jalen, KPJ, Tari Eason, Josh Christopher, all these guys running and gunning in transition next season for the Rockets. Jae'Sean Tate, who's another phenomenal transition player. Like, it's going to be an incredibly exciting team to watch because they're going to be able to get defensive stops with the players that they have, and then they're going to be able to get out in transition and run. And on that point about getting out in transition, I did notice in this game, Tari and Bari both do an incredible job of moving the ball forward and kicking it ahead with outlet passes. Like, they immediately, after a rebound, Tari and Bari do a great job of looking up, right? A lot of bigs have the habit of just securing the rebound and looking for their point guard around them, right? They both look up and survey the floor. And if they see somebody ready for an outlet, like out towards half court, they've done a good job of kicking it ahead. Or even in Tari's case, he had a possession where he took a couple dribbles and kicked it ahead and fed somebody for a wide open bucket on the other end. So it's that level of court vision and court awareness out of your forwards when they're going to be such a big part of your rebounding department. It's huge. That's great. And that's an added bonus that will feed into the Rockets' identity of being this young run and gun team that wants to feast off of other teams in transition and get those easy transition opportunities. So I loved what we saw out of Tari Eason in this game. It really felt like defensively, he continues to be aggressive. And I do think that honestly, there were moments in the game against Orlando where Tari was maybe a little overly aggressive. And I think that maybe there were some times here in this one where defensively, I don't want to say like overplaying at times, but it's just going to be something that has to be kind of refined and molded, right? So, and I think that Jabari at times was even a culprit of that, where Jabari does an excellent job of contesting without fouling, but he also did pick up a handful of fouls against the Magic. He picked up a handful of fouls in this game against the Thunder. In fact, let me see where he finished with. Jabari finished with 4 fouls and Tari finished with 6 fouls. So regular season game, like, these guys would have been in foul trouble much earlier on, probably having to sit down for stretches of the game, that kind of stuff, because you get the luxury of, I believe it's 10 fouls in Summer League. I could be misquoting that, but I believe it is 10 fouls in Summer League. So it's one of those where that level of aggression, right? Where we saw it with Sengun a lot, right? This past season in his rookie year, where he just wants to play so aggressively on defense, trying to contest shots, trying to not give away anything easy at the rim, that sometimes you're going to get blown for some whistles for being a little bit too physical, a little bit too aggressive, that kind of thing. And that's okay. I'd rather players be a little overly aggressive defensively than not trying on defense. So it's not, a huge issue, but it's just something worth noting that the aggression at times can be a little much and probably needs to tone it back just a little bit. But another great game from Tari Eason, who has, again, his rebounding abilities was really shining right now. He is a absolute beast on the boards. I predicted that he was going to get like 7.8 rebounds per game in Summer League. He's already put that to shame, because I think his average is like, he had 14 in the first game, right? I think it was 14 rebounds, 11 in this one. So like, what's the average on that? 12.5, something like that. Is the math right on that? I think it's 12.5. if I remember the numbers correctly, but I'm going off rip here, and I don't have my double monitor set up, so there's no way that I'm going to be able to go back and source the info from the last game. But with that, coming up, I do want to talk about Daishen Nix, his bounce back in Rocket Summer League Game 2. I want to talk about Josh Christopher and his presence in this game, as well as Eric Holman, who maybe making a run for that second Rockets two-way spot. We're going to get there after a quick message from our friends over at rockauto.com, because look, with the ever-increasing number of makes and models, all these different car brands out there, it's basically impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you could possibly need for your car or truck. You can save time and money when using rockauto.com. Why actively choose to spend 30, 50, even 100% more for the exact same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Best of all, rockauto.com is a family business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers online for over 20 years. They've got everything you need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even brand new carpet. So go explore their easy-to-use website and find the solution to your auto parts needs. And this is the really important part. This is the favor you got to do for me, right? When you go there, when you go to hit checkout, be sure to write Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box, so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Be sure to visit rockauto.com. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Let's start this final segment off. We'll go with Josh Christopher first, who continued to be incredibly aggressive in this game. That's exactly what we want to see out of him. We know that Josh is a bucket. But what was my if you watched our last episode, my takeaway was I wish that Josh had been a little bit more, involved in creating for his teammates, right? The guard play was rather suspect, and I wish that Josh would have, taken some time to work to actively set up his teammates. So what did he do in this one? Josh still got buckets because he's a bucket getter. 19 points, 6 of 17 shooting. You'd rather see that number be a little bit better. Missed all 3 of his 3-point attempts, but he went to the free throw line 8 times, shot 7 of 8 at the charity stripe. So you do like to see those numbers. The aggression was there. He was attacking the rim incessantly, trying to get to the free throw line. You love that level of aggression from Josh. And then he also had 9 rebounds and 5 assists, as well as a steal. He finished the first game with 1 rebound, 1 assist. So he's +8 in the rebounding department from this game, and then +4 in the assist department. So I do love that he impacted the game much more than just his ability to score the basketball in this second go-around. It felt like his presence was more there, especially on the defensive end, and then from a creation standpoint offensively, it really did feel like they were playing off of one another significantly better. And again, maybe you just chalk that up to first game jitters, first game playing with everybody. Things were a little bit choppy offensively. A lot of things devolved into, your turn, my turn, isolation, whatever. That kind of happens when you get a switch, when when the shot clock's running down. That's going to happen. It's bound to happen in basketball. But it really felt like the ball movement was a lot better in this game, and having multiple playmakers, multiple ball handlers on the floor who could break down the defense and then kick it out to the next man really felt like it helped the periods of time in this game where they had TyTy Washington, Daishen Nix, and Josh Christopher, the 3-guard lineup on the floor with Tari and Bari at the forward and center spot, whoever, or just as the 2 forwards on the floor. That lineup felt like it was putting in work in this game. So loved what we got out of Josh Christopher in this one. Again, more presence felt elsewhere in the game besides just getting buckets, because we know he can get buckets, right? Impact the game elsewhere. So I like that we got that out of him in this one. And then Daishen Nix, right? My message about Daishen Nix after the first game was, don't overreact to one game, right? There's one game. He had a bad game. Sometimes you have a bad game. Guess what he did in game 2? He bounced back in a big way. 16 points on 6 of 9 shooting. Nice. 3 of 5 from the 3-point line, shot 60% from behind the arc, 1 of 2 at the charity stripe, had a rebound, had 6 assists, and had a steal. A great all-around game from Daishen Nix. And this is the type of production that I wish we could have gotten in the first game, but the ability to set up his teammates, the ability to move the basketball around, to put guys in spots to be successful. And then I love the 3-point shooting from Daishen Nix. Like, he has definitely worked on that 3-point shooting for him. It feels like he's got a slightly quicker release, which is definitely courtesy of John Lucas, who works on the shooting form, right? He's the resident shooting coach for the Houston Rockets. So working on Daishen Nix's release, getting it to a point where it's a little bit quicker. He had that one play where the ball made it out to him, and he faked the pass off to the right-hand side. He was on the left wing, faked the pass back out to the top of the key, and then just immediately, boom, right back up into the shot. And he didn't really throw the defender off that much. Like, the defender was still kind of there and within range to contest, but because Daishen has such a quick release on that shot now, it was up and it was gone and it was in. So very nice bounce back game for Daishen Nix. And again, I do think it really helped him having multiple ball handlers on the floor to kind of feed off of one another and set up opportunities for one another, right? Again, one of the biggest buckets of the game was Daishen Nix kind of setting up the offense and then boom, kicked it out to TyTy Washington, who then was able to attack immediately off the catch. And TyTy spoke about that after the game, basically saying, look, like, Daishen told me, just be ready, right? Just be ready, and I'm going to kick you the ball, and as soon as I kick you the ball, just do what you do. Go get a bucket, do what you do. TyTy did what he does, activated the flotation device, and that was it, helping propel the Rockets to their win in this game. My last guy here that I want to talk about, Eric Holman, who is making feels like a pretty significant push to, maybe getting that second two-way spot for the Rockets. He's making the most of his time when he is on the floor with this Rockets team. Look, he only played 9 minutes in this game, right? You don't get a lot of burn when you're not one of the main rotation guys for this Rockets Summer League roster, and it doesn't help the fact that they're basically running Jabari and Tari as their two bigs for this team. But in his 9 minutes, he had 5 points, 2 of 4 shooting. He had a 3-pointer, had 3 rebounds, had an assist, had a couple blocks, making his presence felt. And then the only other bucket that he had besides the 3-pointer was a gigantic poster on Chet Holmgren, which was just, it was chef's kiss to watch Eric Holman come charging in from the top of the key, full head of steam, full momentum, and credit to Chet for trying to contest the block, right? I'm still going to, like, if somebody gets postered, like, you got to be like, all right, you got postered, right? But at the same time, like, I respect the hustle to try and get in there and try and get the block, because Chet was impressive this game. I'm not gonna sit here and say that Chet wasn't good. I mean, Chet had 12 points, 3 of 10 shooting is kind of so-so, but he got, he was 6 of 6 at the free throw line. He had 8 rebounds, he had 2 assists, 2 steals, 4 blocks. Chet definitely made his presence felt defensively. So, I do think that Chet had a pretty solid game. And at the end of the day, again, this wasn't about Jabari versus Chet. This was the Rockets versus the OKC Thunder. And the Rockets ultimately played a better all-around team game. And the Rockets came away with the win, despite the fact that the Thunder are running their top pick from this past draft in Josh Giddey, who also had a pretty solid game overall for Josh Giddey. 14 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 6 of 15 shooting. Missed all 3 of his 3-point attempts. But, Josh Giddey's out here, like, if Josh Giddey's out here in Summer League putting up those numbers, like if Jalen Green rolled out in Summer League, I don't know, Jalen Green probably dropped like 50 a game. So, but if the Thunder want Josh Giddey to get those reps with Chet Holmgren, then so be it. That's what they're looking for. I do think that kind of wraps it up there. Oh no, you know what? Trevor Hudgens, who actually was quietly impressive off the bench as well. 9 points, hit 3 of 4 from downtown. He's a sniper. Like, the kid can hit his threes. And then he had 4 assists on top of that. So the ball movement was a lot better in this game for the Rockets. I want to say that they had 15 assists in the first game against the Orlando Magic. Maybe that. And in this game, they had 24 assists. So, quite a bit more ball movement, it felt like, in this game. They still aren't shooting the ball incredibly well, right? Just 30.6% from behind the 3-point line. Not great numbers. 11 of 36 overall, just 42.5% from the floor. So those numbers need to improve and need to get better. But the defensive effort is how the Rockets really won this game. They held the Thunder to just 17.4% shooting from behind the 3-point line and just 38.3% overall shooting. Again, Tari and Bari have done a great job kind of locking down the paint area and really forcing some difficult shots for the Thunder. They got some easy ones in transition in this game, but overall, it really felt like the Thunder had to work for a lot of their offense throughout the course of this game. So with that, exciting game to win here in Summer League. We've seen some exciting things out of these young Rockets players. I want you to tell me what your favorite thing was about this Game 2 Summer League win against the OKC Thunder. Let me know in the YouTube comments. But as always, appreciate you for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcast. That's Apple, Spotify, Google, Odyssey app, free and available on all platforms. You can also check us out on YouTube. Again, search Locked On Rockets on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your favorite thing about this Game 2 win in Summer League against the OKC Thunder. What was your favorite moment from this game? What was your favorite overall thing from this game? I do read each and every one of those comments every single day. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.